traders, and welcome to Trading Talk episode 100. You're in for an absolute treat today. It is a massive build. We've even had a special guest from Queensland, Bobby. He's going to be featured in it as well. We were able to recently do a presentation for the ATAA Brisbane chapter, and that was an awesome piece of work. And I thought I'd extend him the courtesy of getting the first sneak peek exclusive look at Trading Talk episode 100 being built live and being built together. It's an awesome build. It's a multi-system trading strategy. There's biases being set. There's different types of conditions being traded through reversals and trends. And we're borrowing ideas from Trading Talk episode 10, 44 to 46, Trading Talk episode 55, 57, 74. We're building ideas from Trading Talk episode 53 and 54, and episodes 96 as well. So every bit of the model that we have demonstrated in Trading Talk episode 100 has come from another Trading Talk episode. So I thought that was a really awesome way of being able to demonstrate that for you. It's so jam-packed with an incredibly exciting build. I didn't even have the opportunity to being able to test it and analyze it for you all today. So what I'm going to do with Trading Talk episode 101 is going to be a how-to in testing and analysis through this particular trading system. And I can't wait to be able to help you do it all. But this week, let's focus on building the model. You all have the opportunity to build and have access to a fantastic world-class trading system for yourselves. I want you to be able to walk away with these kind of types of models. Further to that, we have our International Trading Championship, and we've got some awesome opportunities for traders to come through here and be able to walk away with some world-class trading opportunities. Right now, Peter W is at the top spot with having made a 40% return for the time being, which is absolutely phenomenal stuff. And we're coming up to the close of the Sprint Championship itself. I'm very excited to being able to do that. The Sprint Championship wraps up at the end of the month. I'm wondering if you guys are going to be able to take out the top spot yourselves. So we're really excited to see if you can do the same. Right now though, Peter has really etched himself a rock solid lead. With that being said, if he takes out the marathon by the end of this year, he's going to get tickets to the Algo Trading Conference, where we've got Andreas Knoff, Dr. Roger Hunter, Dr. Ernie Chan. I want you all to take advantage of their amazing work, because the model I built today may seem involved, but it pales in comparison to the level of insights and unique opportunities that they're going to share with yourselves. Without any further ado, I'm looking forward to being able to take care of you all through Trading Talk episode 100 and next week's testing and analysis video, Trading Talk episode 101. I'm looking forward to helping you build great trading models. Thanks and bye for now.
Welcome traders to Trading Talk episode 100. First things first, let's get stuck into our risk warning. I want you all to understand that trading leverage products carry significant risks and is not suitable for all investors. This presentation is provided for information purposes only and should not be regarded as financial product advice. Today in Trading Talk episode 100, I've got a close colleague as well as client of mine, Bobby from Queensland, who's going to help us understand the multi-system build that we went to and developed together. My name is Bisher Khudeira and I'm one of the senior traders here at Trade View. So this is how you can be able to use this. This will help you understand how to create a model that has multiple strategies built into the one EA. It can be used to trade trends and reversals, momentums and scalps, plus many more combinations of complementary systems. And this example shows it using a simple trend model combined with an effective reversal model as well. So it's got about 14 functions in there. Again, functions have been covered in trading talks throughout the series, and I think it's a great way to actually, announce that we've done Trading Talk episode 100, combining multiple ideas borrowed from many different Trading Talk episodes. We've set a reversal bias here, specifically being shown how to set up a bias was demonstrated in Trading Talk episode 10. The reversal long entry and short entry conditions have been demonstrated and built in a pure reversal model in Trading Talk episodes 52 and 54. The reversal long exit and reversal short exit is utilizing order comments demonstrated in episodes 44, 45, 46 and 96 as well. So we're borrowing these ideas but being able to build our own models from it as well. Which is really powerful stuff. Again, trend bias coming from Trading Talk episode 10, being able to set a bias. We've got trend long entry conditions. The trend model's been discussed in 55, 57, and 74, plus many more, but this specific setup coming from Trading Talk episode 74, alongside the long and short entry conditions as well. And then we've got our trend long exit over here as well, borrowing ideas from episodes 44 to 46, and also adjusting and modifying orders has been discussed at length in Trading Talk episode 74. But many Trading Talk episodes have different ways to modify stop losses, but 74 utilizes the moving average as well. So I borrowed that idea from it as well. So ladies and gentlemen, let's get stuck into the build so that way I can show you how to produce such a model. And then I'm looking forward to doing this with you all very shortly. All right, traders, welcome back to Trading Talk episode 100. Today we're going to be discussing a multi-system in the one model, which is pretty interesting. I've got a very special guest with myself, Mr. Bobby Pawagi. If you can introduce yourself, sir, let people know what you've done with TradeView, your own trading career and history, and what you've been able to learn with us and what you're looking to achieve in 2019. And we'll get into the rest of the build itself.
Thank you, Bisher. Yes, as Bisher mentioned, my name is Bobby Pawagi. I'm trading for full-time for the last 5 years. However, I'm now involved with Trading View for the last 3 years. Most of the time, previously I did a lot of manual trading, but since I'm with the Trade View, I learned how to auto trade. I mainly trade currencies and sometimes Australian stock, but my main focus is currencies and futures.
Awesome.
Learning through Trade View how to mechanize or how to auto that your system was grateful, because then I don't have to sit in front of my computer long hours as I used to do. So that was the biggest learning that I had from Trade View. I enjoy my trading. I have a lot of other commitment too, but that is besides that. TradeView gives me a great opportunity to have to, if you have any concept, if I have any concept, how to mechanize it and trade it.
Awesome.
So far I'm enjoying it.
Awesome. And just so that way, so people can get some, real insight into yourself, Bobby, if you want to share some of your own successes and failures while learning to trade, kind of give people a bit of further insight, because I know you've had a storied career in trading, being a full-time trader now, it's a great endeavor. Just, if you want to give some insights into some successes and failures, that'd be awesome.
So thanks, Bisher. Some of the failure I will start with is that I used to be more non-traditional, where I used to trade on the just without any trading plan, without any plan to trade, and that way I have lost twice, big time, especially one trade I did with the BHP and one trade I did with Aussie USD back in 2014. And that trade I did based on a tip, and someone told me, and also had a gut feeling. Of course, that didn't work, and I lost. And however, what biggest learning curve or biggest success I had since I joined the Trade View, because to develop a model, you have to have a trading plan. You have to have a definite entry and exit, and that was the biggest learning curve I had. And if I talk about my success, the last big success, in fact, a few days ago, when Aussie USD again had a big down, that my model picked that up very well, and
nice.
I did very well there. So yeah,
Good
thank
work.
you.
Good work, Bobby. And just in kind of conclusion, wrapping it up here, before we get into the build, what are your future goals with trading as a whole? I know you're obviously at the pinnacle where most traders would want to be, being a full-time trader, but we're always learning, we're always adapting. What's the next steps for you from here?
Always a student for the market. Market always every day teaches you something new thing. And even tomorrow I want to be a good student, and day after that. I just want to do even better than what I'm doing today, learn more than what I'm doing today. So my goal is to be a good student of the market and just learn more. There is plenty to learn, and learning never ends in my background, in my culture. So I would just want to be a good student for future.
Awesome. I love it. I love it. So let's go on now and actually go and start developing this model. It's going to be really exciting. What I'll do is I'll actually share my screen. You can follow along with the build. Then we can share your screen and see what it is that, you know, compare the pair. I'm sure you'll be fine to keep up. Any questions you have whilst I go through the build itself, feel free to ask any that you may have for it, and I can clarify it further. I'm quite excited to being able to share this with you as well.
Thank you.
Awesome. So let me just get into switching my screen. All right. Let's get into the build itself. So as I've introduced previously, I want traders to be able to build and develop a really simple idea which has multi-systems in it. So just through the use of true and false switches, what we're going to do is we're going to be able to not just decide whether we're going to trade long or short, but what kind of market conditions we wish to trade and how we wish to go about trading them as well. So it's a very broad idea, very unique as well. But I want to be able to introduce it to traders so that they can get the most out of it as well. Now, and of course, Bobby, you're going to have first look, which is great. So let's start off, Bobby. What I want you to start off with, very simply, bring this up here to the top. I'll just click on it and refresh it. Okay, awesome. I just have to refresh EA Labs so it switches on for me. Beautiful. So what I want you to do here, start off with a fresh EA and then go all the way into this simple concept here. Grab yourself a function out. And with the function, call it reversal bias. So we're going to lean towards being able to take reversals in here and kind of give a higher time frame filter for when we can be able to trade reversals on a lower time frame. So we want that to be able to really demonstrate that for us and really give us the opportunity to start trading reversals and make sure that we're not going to go into too strong of a trend either way to then allow us to trade an actual good reversal setup on the lower time frames. So what we do is we grab our logic block out first, plug it into reversal bias, and then what we want to do is we want to grab the bar component. We're going to call it the open. We're going to also be able to go into the settings cog, hit the time frame selector, and drop it down to weekly as well. We can go and call that open shift 1, and then greater than, and we want it to be greater than the lower Bollinger Band. You'll see why in a second. So we'll grab 3 parts. So when we plug the bands in, you need to click on the settings cog there for me, Bobby, and bring up 3 things: period, mode, and shift. 40 band period, we want it to be lower, and we also want it to be shift 1. Now, just by being able to right click on here, we can hit duplicate. We can call it then bar close shift 1 is greater than the lower Bollinger Band. So essentially what this is telling us is that both the open and the close of the previous weekly bar is greater than the lower Bollinger Band. So what it's just trying to denote for myself that we aren't at an extreme in the market. We're within the middle of the market. So that's good for me, right? And then there's other ways you can go about it. You can set up an average true range multiplier. So if it's less than 3 times ATR on the weekly, for example, over the last 5 bars. Again, you can have a lot of different reversal filters as to what would be good reversal conditions for it, but this one's a nice easy one that could be visual on the charts and have us understand the idea that we're trying to trade. Cool. So then the next one that we're going to be doing is we're just going to right click this block here, duplicate it again, and then what we want is we want the open to be less than the upper Bollinger Band on the weekly. duplicating this, we want it to be again bar close less than the upper. Super simple. That's the first one so far. Then what we want to do is we want to go into the variables section. You want to create a variable and you want it to be called can trade reversals. Then you want to grab the set can trade reversals, click on the settings cog, get rid of the numerical value and put in a true false condition. And then you can set can trade reversals by clicking on the logic block to true. So that's it. That's our reversal bias, really, that we are with above the lower Bollinger Band and less than the upper Bollinger Band, just using a basic default value of 2 standard deviations. You can keep it tighter even if you want it to be 1 standard deviation, so it's nice and tight and nice range-bound market, but this is one of the easier ways to go about it. Right click on where it says reversal bias, which is a purple component, collapse the block, and then what you want to do is create reversal bias and then plug it into the top there. And that's the first one out of the way, which is cool. Next thing that we want to now work on is we're going to actually set up our reversal long entry. So what we do is, again, grab our functions out. Now, just something that I would share with yourself, Bobby, and I would with everybody else, is that when you're building a model from the start, always build it logic by logic and test it to see how it works before putting things into functions. But then, of course, once you understand it, then you can put it into functions and kind of tidy it up so it's all tucked away. But what we're going to do is we're going to then call this one here reversal long entry. Any questions you have, Bobby, feel free to ask them, because I know that this is kind of the first time I'm introducing the idea to yourself as well, and I always be a bit too. I always assume too much, you know, and I go too quickly sometimes.
Yeah, actually you are, but that's all right. You know, I am a little bit behind, but it's all. Yeah.
That's right. That's all right. What part of it do you want to be able to clarify or expand upon for yourself as well? Because this here is the build for the reversal bias.
Yeah. If you leave that, yeah, that's all good.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Beautiful. So then what I'll do here is the next part, which is if we can trade reversals, we want is the logic to be here. I'll bring this one up a little bit further up. And then this one is the one we want to focus on. Now, if we can trade reversals, so all we need to do is then when we've gone into the variables section, we've grabbed the actual value block out and plugged it into the if component. So if can trade reversals, now that condition is true. What we're going to do is we're going to check if there's no long orders in the market, and then we're going to set it to 0. Super simple. And then what we want to be able to do is grab our logic block out, plug it into here, and go to the bars section, bar close, shift 1. And then what I do is I'll borrow this one here actually, and I'll go ahead and duplicate it, plug it into here, so that I can be able to then say if bar close shift 1 is less than the lower Bollinger Band, then that's
you
it.
can reduce the number 1, yeah, reversal bars. That's all right.
Cool. Now with this one here as well, I forgot to add it in before. We'll do this together. We got to switch the time frame to weekly as well. Specify the time frames. Clicking on the settings cog for bands, putting it as weekly, time frame as beautiful, and specifying it as weekly. So then that's it, because otherwise we won't know which open and close we are referring to the Bollinger Band. It will just go to the current symbol. Oh, sorry, current time frame is what it will default to. So with that addition, that actually helps us. So that's good. That's out of the way. Now with this reversal condition, having then had no long orders in the market, the bar closes less than the lower Bollinger Band. Again, we haven't specified timeframes because we're going to just look at anything from daily, H4, H1, and just test all of them, which is good. And then what we can do here is we're going to go entry, buy the market at that point. We're going to set a stop loss to points. Get rid of that. Both of them need to be 0, which is the take profit and the stop loss, because they've got different ways to get out of the market. Now, we are going to use order comments in this one. So the higher time frame bias, I borrowed this idea from Trading Talk episode 10. If anybody had been following it along, it's a really good Trading Talk episode. And the reversal entry conditions I got from Trading Talk episode 52 and 54. So that's where you can review those particular reversal models in greater detail. But then what we're going to do here is we're going to delete the volume being at 0.01. We're going to go to variables and we're going to create ourselves a lot size variable. We can then go in here. Beautiful. And then we're going to just hit external and just set it to 0.01 for the lot size. And now in this question mark, by clicking on it on the buy block itself, all you need to tick is so that it comes up with the text box. We're going to call it reversal long entry. Now, however which way you want to go about calling it, whether you have spaces in there, whether you have underscores, just make sure that's the way you're going to, because we're going to call upon this order comment later on. Order comments is discussed in Trading Talk episode 44, 45, and 46. So this is where I got this idea from. But in terms of what we do here, we need to make sure that the comment that we have inside the buy or sell blocks is the same one that we're using in all the other parts of time, or the times when we call upon it. Even if there's a full stop or a space where in difference, it's not going to call upon it correctly. So that's just important as well. So we've called it reversal long entry. We've been able to get rid of it. And now what we want to be able to do is create another variable. And this variable should be called last buy. And what you're going to do is you're going to go like this. Change it to last buy. And you're going to set last buy to bar open. So you can just duplicate the close block that we've had there, bar close block, switch it to open, switch it to shift 0. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go to the orders section. At the same time, we're going to select all the short orders. This technique here is called square and reverse, which is you cut the trades in the opposite direction and start going in the current position that you've got. So then we're going to also go and grab out a logic block here. If order profit is less than 0, we can just borrow this one from here, duplicate, and go back into orders, and we're then going to close the order. So that's literally the idea. Pretty simple stuff, which in terms of a reversal concept is quite popular. It's been demonstrated a lot of times in different Trading Talk episodes, but this is the basis of the idea. Now, to save us some time, all we need to do is then create reversal long entry and plug it into the top there, into the EA bar section.
Yeah, that's good. I think that's a very good entry, especially with the Bollinger Band. And so, yeah, I think I'm very excited about it. So I think that
Awesome.
will work very well.
That's good. That's good. And then what we're going to do now is we're going to right click, and what we're going to do is we're going to duplicate it as well.
Yeah.
Now, the fact that it's called reversal long entry 2 is perfect, right? Because we want it to actually do that for us, because we're just going to be able to have the same criteria set up for us. Now, what we do need to do though is from this section here, so not the first one, not the second one, but the third if do block, you just need to plug that onto the outside for a second for me. Because what we're then going to do is we're going to go grab a logic block, grab an AND condition, right click on AND and switch it to external inputs. And then we're just going to plug it in like this. And then we're going to be able to put this one back into the belly. So following along here, it's going to be greater than 0. We're going to duplicate it. And then when we plug it into here, we want it to be less than, and then we can delete this block. We can create another variable, call it max trades. And then grab that in here, switch it to max trades. Beautiful. We'll just default max trades right now just to 10. And we'll click on the external value so we can adjust it later on. And that's pretty much the idea in general, but that's just one of the re-entry conditions, is that we have an order in the market and we're less than 10 orders in, which is great. But now the next thing we want to be able to do is we want to create here another variable and call this variable points lower. Cool. And now that's been set up for us, which is good. And then what we want to be able to go into is grab the logic block out. Now plug the logic block into here. So we've got all the buy criteria just sitting on the outside. It is going to go back into it. But what we want is we want a bar close, and duplicate that previous one, to be less than. Go grab our values block out, plug it into here. We want it to be less than our last buy price. So we can go back into here, last buy, minus points lower. So then we can just duplicate last buy, plug it into here, and call it points lower. Oop, switch it over, points lower, set it to 0.05. Now this one can be changed to whatever you want it to be, but you know, a 5-point difference should do for most traders. You can change it to 10 and just change it to 0.001. And then we just take the buy block back into the belly of the beast, into the do component, and that's it. That's literally all the reversal long entry criteria already then being created for us, which is pretty cool. I'm just going to then go on to create reversal long entry 2 and then plug it into the top part here. How are we going so far? Is there anything I can help with, Bobby? I mean, I know I tend to charge on ahead.
No, you're doing excellent job. I finished with that reversal long entry. So awesome. I'm now going to go into the reversal long entry 2.
Excellent.
Yeah, no, I think it's very easy to build, Bisher. I'm very, you know, it's not taking me a long time. So I think hopefully all other traders and members will find the same thing.
Awesome.
It's pretty much straight. And you know, if you understand the Bollinger Band and if you understand the logic behind it, I think that's very straightforward.
Awesome. Yeah, it's I didn't want to make it too complicated, something that's digestible for most traders. And then we can go on from there, so no stress. Now what I'm going to do, just for simplicity's sake, I'm just going to click on it here where it says reversal long entry 2, and then I'm going to just Control C on my keyboard and go into here, and you can see that it's got reversal long entry 2. So you can just either add the 2 in, or you can Control V over it as well, whatever you prefer. But it's all in there, but we just want to specify which re-entry criteria we're in, or which specific buy conditions we're in, whether it's the initial entry or the second or third, and subsequent entries from there. So that's pretty much it when it comes to this part. The short entry is very similar. So what I'm going to do, just to be able to save time, and this is like a really helpful tip and trick for most traders, create the next set of variables. I'm going to call it points higher. And you can then go on to create another one and call it last sell. Cool. And then that's the two variables that we're going to need in the next two components, which is the reversal short entry and reversal short entry 2. What I'm going to do is I'm going to actually duplicate this entire EA, just collapse this one here, and then we're going to go into and call it reversal short entry. Beautiful. So then what we can be able to do here is we're still wanting this particular criteria, which is if it can trade reversals. Plug this out. Now what we want is just this one. What we're going to say is if count current symbol short orders is equal to 0, then what we want to be able to do is we want to grab this criteria here, which is this logic loop we've created before. And if the bar close of shift 1 is greater than the upper band, then what we want to be able to do for ourselves is we want to go in here, we want to sell the market. We're going to switch it from price to points, put that one as 0, delete the bar high component, duplicate that 0 value and plug it into points as well. I'm just going to highlight reversal short entry, Control C, find that cell block, question mark, and put reversal short entry into there. And that's pretty much the criteria. Reason why I didn't want to delete these previous blocks as well is that there's still elements of it that I can feed off. So I'm going to delete this 0.01 block, and I'm going to then pull this lot size criteria into here. And then we're going to plug this into here as well. So these two components won't be necessary for the build. We'll delete that, and we'll delete this one as well. Switching this one to long orders now. And that's literally reversal short entry. Super simple. We also need to switch the last buy to last sell, which is why I created it previously, to make sure that we can call upon it correctly. And that's everything.
Thank you, Bisher. I think that's great. I am a little bit behind, but I think for the flow of this, I'll let you continue on because I think that is very important, and I will catch up with you in a minute.
Awesome. I appreciate that. Look, I mean, I know that I tend to get pretty excited with these builds. It's just the way I go about it is that any which way that makes building models for yourselves in EA Lab easier, go for it, and then make sure you can get the most out of it as well. That's whatever works. So I'm just going to duplicate this one again. But oftentimes, at the same time, you don't want to overwhelm yourself, try to build so much and try to get ahead. Just try to make tips and tricks, whatever works for you. Just keep on doing them for yourself.
That's true. And I mean, while it might look like a very big model or long model, but I'm just finding that very easy to build. So,
awesome.
It's just a matter of using all the variables and functions and logic in a current sequence. And I'll be using a Bollinger Band for the server trade. So I think very exciting.
Yeah, awesome. So then now what I just have to do, because I've already duplicated it, first thing is I click on the comment here. I add my 2 into it because I know that it's the second one of the series. Go to my logic, grab an AND block, plug it into there. I always like to click on it and just select external inputs, just so that way it's a bit more evenly spread out and I can see it a little bit more clearly. So I want it to be greater than 0. I'll duplicate the entire criteria again and then have it less than, and I'm just going to pinch max trades. So where is it? Cool. And then go back into here, and then I'm just going to delete the actual block. Beautiful. So then if the bar close of shift 1 is then greater than the upper band, we're less than our max trades, which should already be defaulted to 10, which it is. What we want to do is we want to set the last cell to bar open shift 0. Now that criteria is correct, but we also need to go back into here, grab our if statement. I'm just going to put this sell criteria on the side for the time being, borrow the bar close, so that way it's on here. And if the bar close is greater than, and we're going to go grab our values here, plug the equation block into the right hand side, go to variables, and we want it to be last sell plus, and just duplicate this again, points higher. Now we haven't set up our points higher yet, so we're going to external it and set it to 0.0005. And then that's it. And now we're going to plug it back into here. And that's our reversal short entry idea complete, which is pretty cool. That's literally all of the reversal conditions required for entry. And it's pretty simple stuff. So I'm just going to create reversal short entry, plug it into the top here, reversal short entry 2, create it and plug it into the top as well. Handy trick, just press Control Z whenever something doesn't quite pull out the way it should be. And then that's it. Clean up the blocks. I'm just going to get rid of these two here. Awesome. And that's reversal entries done.
For Bollinger Band.
That's correct.
And yeah, so we have a 2 long entry and 2 short entry, depending upon the conditions of the market and what we're doing. So
this is what we're assuming with our reversal entry conditions here is that the first entry isn't going to be the best entry because the market may have a bit more room to go to the upside. And that's why we've got also built into the model a way to get out of the trades as well, which is if the short orders are not profitable and we're going long, then we close them out. If the long orders aren't profitable and we get short, we close out the long orders.
For viewer of this video, we are doing on our longer time frame is a weekly, and our trading time frame depend upon what comfortable you are. So it can be 4 hour, can be 1 hour, can be any time frame that you suit.
Yeah, that's right. We haven't specified which one we want to be able to trade on. That's why we just left it as bar close and bands period 40. If you don't specify the time frame, it'll always look at the current one that either the EA is attached to on the chart or what you're doing your testing across.
Yes.
Which is cool. Now let's go into and create our next function. And that next function is reversal long exit, which is pretty exciting because this one is a pretty unique way of getting out of the trades. But because we've got 2 systems built into one, it can be pretty involved. So I want to be able to go into here. And the first thing I want to do, grab my logic block out. And then I want it to be if the bar closes shift 1 is greater than the bands, and we're going to just be able to call, we just need the period, the mode, and the shift, and we just want it to be 40, main, shift 1. That's it. And that's our reversal long exit, which is if we're getting a close above the mid band of the Bollinger, so the moving average of it, then we get to close off our profitable long trades. The way I'm going to go about doing that though is I'm going to select all the long orders, and then I'm going to say if order comment by being able to go into here. Just going to delete this part. Go to orders. You go and grab this block here from the orders section, and then you just need to go in and just type in order comment contains, and then you need it to literally be the exact same. So the way I go about it is, because I know that I've named it reversal long entry, you can just type it in. Or if for other ones, you can just then be able to go into here, find the actual block that you've got, and then you just go Control C on your keyboard, collapse the block, and then you can go in here and Control V as well. Both are correct. There's, as long as it's typed exactly the same. For those who are concerned that they might not spell it right the second time around, Control C, Control V fixes that issue very quickly. We need another logic block, which says if order profit is greater than 0, then you want to go in and close the order. Literally, that's it. But what we do need to do for the second criteria, which is the re-entry criteria, just plug it in here. So it's still all wrapped up into the criteria for re-entry. And all you need to do is just type in a 2, and that's it. That is literally the reversal of the multi-system side of it, all done and dusted.
Wow, how easy is that?
So now we know, because the reason why you have to specify which long entry you want to close off is that you may have trend entries in there as well, right? And you don't want to be closing off the trend trades based off reversal exit conditions.
Yes.
Because if you just say select all long orders, you're going to look at all the long orders that you've got open. Some of them may be from the trend aspect of the system or of the strategy, and then it gets closed off, but that's not that's not its exit. So this is the way we can be able to specify which orders we want closed off.
Wonderful. That's excellent.
Then we create reversal long exit, plug it into the top, and then we can then just go on and collapse this block, clean up blocks, and that's the at least the reversal long exit done, which is pretty simple. Now, for simplicity's sake, you can then just go on and actually then duplicate reversal long exit, because what we're going to do is we're going to call this one here now reversal short exit. And then we're just going to be able to go into here and call it reversal short exit as well. Control C on reversal short exit, Control V into the next component, and then reversal short exit 2. And then that's at least the short exit criteria then created. Create reversal short exit, plug it into the top, collapse the blocks, and then that's literally everything set up and ready to go.
Yes, it is.
Which is pretty cool.
Yes.
So what we now need to do now for ourselves is start creating our trend component of the model. So there's a few ways you can go about setting up your reversal and trend bias. This is the most, at least simplest way. But then you can get in and try to, I'll expand on this one in the next episode, but be able to switch off reversal bias and switch off trend bias. This one, it will allow multiple trades to occur at the same time. But this way is just being able to confirm and filter out particular reversal conditions and trend conditions. There may be some overlap between the two.
Yeah, no, I'm very excited about this model, and definitely, how you can use Bollinger Band in the trending market or in the reversal market. So that's good. Now, we're taking only 10 trades, right, in this, Max?
Yes, that's correct.
Great.
So we can increase it if you would like, but that's why we've created this variable. And then you can change the maximum number of trades, but you can open up a lot more and it can be even more effective than it already is.
Yes, thank you.
Cool. No worries. So then the next function that we're going to then create for ourselves now is we're just going to call it trend bias. And then we'll just grab our logic block out, plug it into there. And what we're going to say to ourselves is that we're going to have a bar opening and closing above, a weekly bar, closing above and opening above a weekly 200 period moving average. So it's going to look at the last 200 weeks, right? Which is at least 4 years, approximately. and then be able to see whether we're above it or below it. So it should give us a really good trend filter, making sure that we can go into it. But you can then change that period to say something like 50 or 100. You can use 50 if you like, because if you want to be able to create more signals, be able to look at a shorter period, which is just last year. But again, it's up to yourselves. I like using 200, but again, it's up to the trader themselves. So then if we go into here, we're then going to select the bar, close, switch it to open, just zoom it in a little bit more. Perfect. Shift 1, we want to specify the time frame on this one. We want to call it weekly. And if that open is greater, then we grab our moving average block out. So there's going to be a few components for it that you're going to look for, which is period, shift, and time frame. We're going to call it the weekly, call it 200, and let's shift 1. Then what we're going to do is we're going to then go on and duplicate that criteria. And we're going to say close of shift 1 is greater than it. Then what we want to do is we want to create a variable, and you want to call this variable can trade long trends. Cool. Switching this one out here. And then we're going to set can trade long trends to true. And that's it for at least creating a trend bias. Then let's go on and actually create another variable. I know it seems like there's a lot of loops and a lot of logic here, but again, it's just being able to create simple filters. We've got the power to decide what trades we want and what kind of filters we want to have as well. So we're going to call it can trade short trends. Hit OK. Now that it's all been created, I'm just going to duplicate this previous criteria, plug it into here. So we want the open to be less than the 200 period moving average as well as the close, and we want to can trade short trends to true. And that's literally all that is required to being able to set up our short trend filter or short trend bias. And then we're going to be able to create trend bias, plug it into the actual overarching model, and then we can then collapse it and start going on to our next function. And our next function is going to be called trend long entry. Going into here. I'm also going to copy it whilst we've just created it, Control C, because it'll be called upon later. Going into our logic, grab an if block out, delete the equals component. And then what I want to be able to do is go into my variables that I've created, and I want to be able to say can trade long trends and simply plug it into it. Going into here, grabbing another if do block out, going into the orders section, and I'm going to grab the count condition. If count current symbol long orders is equal to 0, then what we want to be able to do is go into here, grab our criteria, another if do block, and then what we're going to say is the bar close of shift 1 is then greater than, I might just expand this one and steal a block from here. And then I'll get rid of the time frame selector. Oh, I want to get rid of time frame. Cool. And then bar close of shift 1 is greater than the 200 period moving average. That's it. Then we're going to go on to buy. So we're going to grab our buy block out. I'm going to select the question mark, Control V from my keyboard from something that I've copied over previously, which is trend long entry. I'm going to delete this component here, and we're going to grab our lot size, plug that criteria into there, switch it to points, delete this, call it 0, duplicate it, and have that set to 0 as well. We're then going to create trend long entry, and that's literally all that is required for our trend long entry. Pretty simple stuff, which is pretty cool. I like this kind of model just because of its simplicity. With this model as well, I forgot to mention anything that we make in the adjustments for here will create the adjustments in trend long entry. Speaking of that, I did forget that we did want to be able to select the orders, the short orders that is, and then we want to be able to close off any orders that are not in profit, just because it's the simplest way to being able to get out of losing positions, is that it's just a square and reverse. But there's so many ways you can go about it, but for me that's the easiest one when you're thinking of a lot of different types of entries. This one's the easiest way to go about it. And values, switch it to 0. So if the order profit is less than 0, we go back to orders, close it off, and that's it. That's all that is required. Any changes that we did make in here, the EA Lab's pretty smart. All the changes are already in trend long entry.
So that way we can minimize our losses when we are closing the short trade, when we are opening the long trade. So that's very good. Yes.
Yeah, it's the market giving us a signal that it's going in a different direction.
That's right.
So that's a good indication that you should be out of your shorts, and you can. But again, that's just one exit condition. There's many others you can explore with this particular type of model.
And which we have explained in our previous videos anyway. So yeah, if people want to see, they can find out what are the other ways they can minimize the losses. Yes.
That's right. Manage our risk. Now I'm just going to go on and duplicate this block here for trend long entry. I'm going to expand upon it. And the only adjustment that needs to be made is the actual criteria where we're in here, which is being able to say less than max trades. So I'll call it greater than. I'll grab an and condition. I'll just keep that rest of the criteria on the side, plug it into there, right click on and select external inputs, grab the actual block itself, duplicate it, and plug it back in to that side of the equation. I'm going to delete the 0 because it's not going to be required. Going back to variables, grabbing max trades, letting it sit in there, and that's it. Trend long entry number 2 is as simple as that.
Yes.
Which is pretty cool.
It's just a matter of changing it from the long entry 1 to the making minor adjustment, so that will make the criteria.
That's right. So then we grab that here, and then we can either add the 2, or you can then just go on to double click it and trend long entry 2. So it's exactly as you want to spell it. And then that's the modification all done and dusted.
Great.
Which is awesome. So then I'll just collapse this block, clean it up. Now I'm going to duplicate the initial trend long entry. Reason being is it'll explain in a second, but let's expand it. So we want to be able to call it trend short entry. This just saves us time on having to build every single block. And then
that's why we can save time when we are building blocks, because you already done all the hard work.
Yeah.
It's now a matter of reversing it from long to short, and correct. We can speed up the things.
That's
that
right.
is very clever thing to do.
That's right. And so what we're going to do is we're going to then go and switch it from can trade long trends to can trade short trends. What we've said here already is that if we've got short orders, that's the one we want to look at, and the bar closing less than the 200 period moving average. So just going to put this on the side for a second because it's going to come handy in a moment when we plug our sell criteria in. I'm going to then go on and delete this particular block, grab the lot size, plug it in, put it to points, delete this component, switch it to 0, duplicate, just the 0 block, and that's in there now. So we can then grab here, we just get rid of the actual buy block itself, we just delete it, and then we're going to select all the long orders that are not yet in profit and close them off as well. Pretty simple stuff. We're going to copy the trend short entry, go into here, change it to trend short entry, and that's literally created everything that we require for this particular build. So that's pretty cool. And that's everything that's needed for the initial short entry conditions, all met very nicely. So we can then collapse that, go back into the main one. So we got to create trend long entry 2, plug it into the overarching one, create trend short entry, plug it into here, and let's clean it up. Cool. So that's pretty much everything all built up very nicely. Let's actually duplicate can trade short entry or trend short entry 2, and let's expand upon it. So everything's already nicely pre-built for us. Copy over trend short entry, click on the question mark, go into here, and we've then been able to close it off. So that's all that was required for this one. We will need to also grab an AND condition. Let's plug it into there. Set it to external inputs. So we want it to be greater than 0. Duplicate it. Plug it into here. Get rid of the 0 block. Go back to variables. Grab max trades. And then that's literally trend short entry 2, all sorted for ourselves. So we want it to be less than, and that's the entirety of the actual model itself, which is pretty handy, pretty convenient, and all sorted for ourselves, which is great.
Yes, it is. And I think now we have finished the whole model dealing with the Bollinger Band and moving average. So depend upon the market condition and depend upon which condition is meeting our needs, we can switch it around. Yeah,
that's right. So now what we got to do is just create the trend exits, and we're done. So let's just collapse this block here. Be able to check upon what is in there so far. We got to create trend short entry 2, plug it into the actual build itself, and clean it up. So as you can see, it's super important when you're building a model like this that you literally build it step by step, because just imagine, right, if you hadn't had any familiarity with this trading system or strategy and you're trying to build it all from scratch, if it's one of your own ideas, for example, Bobby, and you start building them into 10, 12, 14 different functions, and then you test it and then it doesn't work or it's not taking trades correctly, you've got to literally pull it apart from top to bottom. It can be a bit overwhelming.
Yes, that's correct. And I think it is a step-by-step process. And I think when I develop any of my model, I literally check every step to make sure that the criteria that I'm setting up, it's meeting the criteria. Because when you have a model like this, where you have using 2 indicators for your system, it is very important to, rather than going in a hole, you do step-by-step checking. Yes.
That's right, and then it's a really great way to progress the actual model as a whole, and it allows you to think of the next step, which is great. So I'm going to create another function now. Let's call this function trend long exit. Which is great. Now what we're going to do is we're going to grab our orders and we're going to select all the long orders. We're going to grab a logic block out and we're just going to plug it into here. Now we're going to grab if order, this block here. We're going to delete this equals section, leaving the if do command in. And what we want to say is if order comment contains, and we just want it to contain trend long entry, what we want to then be able to check upon is our next component of logic, which is if order profit is greater than 0, going to our values component, then what we want to be able to do is modify the stop loss to price. Delete this block. Now we can just expand on this one, borrow the 200 period moving average by duplicating it. Cool. And here we go. Collapse our block. Let me just grab this. Beautiful. And we want it to be to price. And only if closer. So that's pretty much how we go about modifying this particular order. And that's literally everything that is required to get this trade going. So what we do is we check the trend long entry comment. If the order profit is greater than 0, then we're going to modify the stop loss to the 200 period moving average. So that way we can start riding the trend all the way up until we catch another reversal. Well, the market turns again, we start getting short, and we should be able to profit from that move to the downside as well.
Yes,
now,
that's correct.
Yeah. So what we're just going to do is we're going to select this if do component, duplicate it, plug it directly underneath, so we don't have to build everything from scratch. Put in a 2, and then that's it. So that's as easy as it takes to create the trend long exit. Whilst I'm here, what I'll do is I'll also duplicate this one, call it trend
short exit. Yeah.
That's it. That's the one. I'm going to copy this. Beautiful. And then call it trend short exit 2. And that's literally everything that's
we
required.
change to long to short.
That is correct. And then we change it from long to short. And that's everything that is actually required to being able to adjust and modify these orders. So that's pretty cool. So I'm just going to create trend long exit and then create trend short exit. I'm going to collapse this block, chuck it to the side here, collapse this block, put it aside, clean it up. And that's literally everything that's required to actually being able to trade this one particular model. What are your thoughts?
I'm just surprised that it's how easy to build this one, and what it's also doing for me is that as you building step by step, you can do it very easily, especially while it looks a bit daunting that it is a very long model, but it's not actually, and it's also protecting your capital in the sense of when there is when you're reversing when the trend is reversing on you from long to short, you're exiting all your trades that are in loss. So I think for me, my number one priority is to protect my capital, which is meet these needs, this model. And it also, we are looking at the, in a long-term trend, like a moving average 200 for the weekly, that is the trend setter. It set the trend, what's happening in the long term. And you can adjust it to your trading time frame, which is my trading time frame is 1 hour and 4 hours. So awesome. I can switch it very easily. So I think I'm quite excited about it. It's a cool model.
It is. And I mean, even though there's 14 separate functions built into it, I mean, all these ideas, I mean, we're on Trading Talk episode 100 now, but every single component in that actual 14 functions, the bias was found in Trading Talk episode 10. The reversal entry and exit conditions were found in Trading Talk episode 52 and 54. The trend entry conditions were found in Trading Talk episode 74. How to use comments was discussed in Trading Talks episode 44, 45, 46, and 96. So all the ideas have been spread throughout the few years we've been doing these Trading Talk episodes, but you get to go through them at your own pace, build them on, and borrow ideas from different models and really get to grow them.
Absolutely, Bisher, and I agree with that. And this is just a concept. This is just idea that created by you, and I think all other traders can change according to their needs. But you're right. In this episode number 100, we have bring all the previous episodes nice niche thing into one here, which is very good. So I had to make a comment, had to write a comment, I had to make a multiple entry or exit strategy. So they're all very good.
Awesome. So that's literally how we're going to go about building this model, because it's already been very involved, and I appreciate your time this evening. What I'm going to do is I'm going to then do the testing and the analysis in the next component with yourself in Trading Talk episode 101. But now that you've got the model in your hands, feel free to do some testing and analysis of your own. When we reconvene next week, we'll probably find that we're going to come to similar conclusions, but we'll discuss that in greater detail.
That's right, Bisher, and I think this is one of the new things that we now have built a model. Now the other members can build their own, test it, and see whether the results are what they are getting are similar to what I am going to get it. Because remember, I'm as a trader, I'm also going to test this model and like to see the same results. So I'm really definitely looking forward for the next week's episode where we're going to share our results or my results and to see how they matches with other traders' results. So exciting time ahead, definitely.
Awesome. And I can't wait. So there's many more ideas that we want to be able to share with yourself. But for now, what I'll do is I'll let you enjoy the rest of your evening. I appreciate your time, and hopefully we get to catch up before next week to discuss these ideas one-on-one.
Thank you, Bisher, and thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you all. Thanks for watching that awesome build that I had just done with Bobby now. It was a fantastic episode. I'm sure that you've all learned something from it and you've been able to take away many different types of ideas about how we can build it. Very exciting to say that Trading Talk episode 101, which will be being done next week, is going to be demonstrating how to be able to test and analyze this system. We're probably about an hour and a half in and we haven't even been able to do that. So a lot of ideas, a lot of awesome opportunities that I want to share with all of you, but we've already made it to Trading Talk episode 100. I'm looking forward to being able to deliver 100 more episodes with you all in the coming years. I appreciate all of you being able to make it something special. So to be able to discuss this Trading Talk episode plus many others, you can be able to go to Trade View Investments, type in and go to tradeview.com.au. You can give us a ring on our number. You can message me or email me through bisher.khudeira@tradeview.com.au, and you can Skype me as well through tradeview.bk. That brings us to a close for Trading Talk episode 100. Thanks and bye for now.